and do the matchmaking. And here is some examples of our virtual events. So we have more than 200 webinars per year organized by different alliances focusing on different and hard topics. And we have more than 50,000 registrants attending all these events. And we have almost 700 keynote speakers participated in this event. And here is the TechDoc forum that the Chamber developed this platform by our own. It's a very advanced and multifunctional digital platform. You can go there to create your account. You can do the business matchmaking. You can be the organizer of an event. You can be the speaker of the event. It's very tailored platform. Please feel free to check its tech.forum. And I think that's all for the brief introduction of the EU Tech Chamber. If you are interested, please feel free to follow us in our social media channel, especially our LinkedIn channel, and contact us. Okay, that's all for the brief introduction of the Chamber. Back to you, Antonia.
Perfect. Thank you, Sami, for this introduction. Participants in order for today's presentations are Dr. Alexandra Etemat from Flame Advisory and Ms. Edita Adamtsikova from Viridor. Today we will hear presentations first and answer questions afterwards. In the sense of time, we might not be able to answer them all, so please use public chat for questions that you have. So without further ado, let's start. The first presenter will be Dr. Alexander Etemat with Flame Advisory. He develops sustainability leadership and accelerates the migration of companies towards sustainable businesses. He offers customized solutions which encompasses leadership and business coaching, teams facilitation and training. Alexander, the stage is yours.
Good morning to all of you. So before talking about integrating SDGs into your business operations, first, I would like to precise some of the vocabulary I'm going to use. Before integrating, of course, your company has to select which SDG you want to contribute to. Once you have done that, you have to select and identify some sustainability targets. That means some environmental and social objectives that your company wants to achieve. To do so, you can use some of the guidelines that some international organizations have developed and prepared for you. I'm referring, for example, to the UN SDG Compass or the UN Global Compact management process, or even the ISO 26000. These are very good guidelines that will help you to identify your targets. Once you have defined your targets, you need some key performance indicator to let you check how you do progress toward your achievement of your targets. So having said that, I see three main pillars to help integrating your SDG into your business operations. The first one is to anchor your targets within your business. The second one is to embed your sustainability targets across all functions of your organization. And the third pillar, in my opinion, is to engage in collaboration and partnership with your stakeholders. Antonia, next slide, please. So how do you anchor your sustainability targets within your business? In my opinion, there are three main avenues. The first one is to tie your company's success to your sustainable development. And the best way to do that is actually to reflect these ambitions in your vision and company's mission, namely by using your purpose statements. Let me give you an example. Unilever company defined its purpose statement as making sustainable living a commonplace. So this is the main purpose of the company. Then they have defined 3 sustainability targets. One was to work to eliminate deforestation from the supply chain management. Another one was to champion sustainable agriculture. And the third target was to improve hygiene. So this gives you an idea of vision, purpose, and sustainability targets. Another avenue to anchor your sustainability goals is to communicate your business case within your organization. That means explaining, clarifying your purpose, your targets, how you want to achieve that, what are your metrics, so that everybody within the organization is aware of the situation. The third avenue to anchor your sustainability goal is actually to integrate these targets into your performance reviews and your remuneration schemes across the organization. This will be done obviously by your HR department, eventually giving additional incentives reflecting the role that a function or individual has in achieving the relevant sustainability goals. And you can use your company metrics, your KPI, to track and measure the concerned business unit, the department, and the individual performance. Slide, please. So the second pillar of integration is to embed your sustainability targets across the organization. And to do so, the support and the ownership of the various corporate functions, such as R&D, business development, supply management, operation, HR, all these are the key to embed your sustainability strategy within your operations. So let me give you a simple example so we know exactly what we are talking about. Let's suppose that your company wants to contribute to the SDG 12 of the UN. I remind you the SDG 12 is to ensure sustainable consumption and production. Let's suppose that your company has selected its sustainability target, which is, for example, to achieve the environmental sound management of chemicals and waste. So this is the target. To check the progress toward these targets, your company has defined 2 KPIs. For example, the first one is to identify all harmful chemicals by 2022, and where possible, select active chemicals. Another KPI is to phase out precisely all harmful chemicals in production by 2025. So once you have these metrics, you have to delegate to the concerned and relevant function the achievement of the targets. In our example, the R&D would have to identify the alternative chemicals, and the supply chain management to identify and phase out the harmful chemicals. To go more into the details, again, the function has to delegate to individual targets or teams. For example, again, your R&D engineer has to identify alternative materials in product and components. Or your component purchaser has to ensure that all supply accounts comply with the purchasing policy on harmful chemicals. So what I am communicating actually is that it's very important that you define targets, you define metrics, and then the concerned function, the concerned team, and even individual is taking ownership. Next slide, please. So as I explained in my previous slide, SDGs and your targets must and should be integrated within every concerned business unit and functional sub-strategies and plans. I can give you some good practices that can give you some ideas about how to integrate and embed your targets within your business operations. One of these practices concerns the leadership of your company, because leaders do play a paramount role in the achievement of your targets within your organization. So leaders across your business, as I said, should integrate the goals and targets into their business plan. Again, from department to team and individual levels. This is, again, really the key. You should also allocate the ownership to the appropriate existing lines of business leaders. So exactly which business leader has to do what. If possible, as far as I have understood, it's better to avoid a central sustainability team. The decentralized management creates more agility as is more convenient for development of sustainability. Another practice is to provide support to these leaders on how to integrate their strategies with the SDGs. For example, you can organize workshops and coaching sessions, to help them to find the intersection between the strategy, the purpose, and their business opportunities, which relates to their function. This is actually what I'm doing as a leadership coach. I am working with some of my clients within workshops, and I'm coaching some leaders, to better understand their targets, their metrics, and how to engage their team in the process to reach their sustainability targets. Another practice that could help you is to integrate the SDGs into your company events. For example, bringing sustainability themes and speakers, inviting them into internal conferences in your company or functional planning workshop. Next slide, please. So you have understood that there is a phase of migration from a conventional profile of your company to a sustainable profile. And within this transformation, within this migration, your core business practices need to be adapted and modified to reflect and enable the sustainability targets. Again, I can give some ideas and practices For example, to identify and embed your functional sustainability goals into key business processes. We talked about that. But an example is to have directives and standards on raw materials choices during the product design stage. This is related to the example I gave from the company. Or adding selection criteria that reflect the goals. You can support changes to business processes by using target and metrics to steer toward the desired outcome. This is again what I said previously, the importance of KPI. For example, by a certain date, a minimum percentage of your portfolio will be made up of more sustainable products and services. Finally, you can ensure that your executive team review the progress, that your executive team is engaged on both the changes to business processes and your projects. I give the example of creating a standing item on your executive team meetings, to review the critical innovation to deliver the sustainable targets. What is important is that all the resources of the company, from the top executives, executive team, the board, the executive teams, and then the function, the leaders, the management, the individual, everybody has to be engaged toward the achievement of your sustainability goals. Slide, please. The third pillar of integration of sustainability target, or SDGs, goals, within your business operation is collaboration and partnership with your stakeholders. This is, if I may say, the fundamental features of a sustainable business. How to collaborate effectively with your stakeholders. And here I make the difference between the internal stakeholders, like the board members, like the leadership, the employee, and the external stakeholders. I would like here to give again some practices concerning how to collaborate first and engage your internal stakeholders. The first target, if I may say, is to build the capacity of the board, of your board, by holding, for example, ongoing capacity building sessions with the board, to brainstorm and educate them with the help of external expert and coach inputs. Is to cultivate the culture and competences of your organization. For that, you can develop a corporate competency framework that sets out the tasks and capabilities that your organization needs for achieving your sustainability goals. By that, I mean the new knowledge, the new sustainability skills, behavior, and attitude that your leaders need, your employee needs to do their job. Again, this is one of the areas where, as a leadership coach, I'm working with companies to develop new sustainability skills and behaviors. Because, and maybe we will discuss that during the Q&A, I would say sustainability leadership is completely different from the conventional leadership. It requires a new set of mindsets, a new set of skills and behaviors. Another idea is to develop a range of methods for the delivering of the learning, of the new learning. For example, you can create informal peer-to-peer learning on the job, on the task, or organize more formal face-to-face workshops and digital learning approaches. All these are the different choices. Altogether, you have to help your leaders and employees to identify their own sense of purpose and explore opportunities to align this purpose with the vision of the company. This idea of organization alignment is also one of the key of success. And again, as a coach, very often I'm working with leaders and their teams to reduce the gap that may exist between their perception, their understanding of their job and their sustainability targets with the vision of the company. There is very often a gap, and this needs to be reduced. And a last element of the integration, as I said, is to work and collaborate with your external stakeholders. Here again, a sustainable business knows it needs the use of its networks and influence to bring about the regulatory and market condition to succeed and find the partnership to deliver its impact. I'm giving again some practices that can help you. Basically, you would need to consult a wide range of stakeholders that are impacted positively or negatively by your business activities across the value chain. I give some engagement method. It could be stakeholder workshop by inviting them and working together, sending them online questionnaires and do facilitated dialogues. This is also what I'm doing as a coach, as a facilitator, through one-to-one meetings and focus groups. You can also identify the relevant external trends and drivers of your business and ask your stakeholders to prioritize them from a list, for example, of social and environment issues. Once you have done that, you have to develop a partnership strategy, that may include what outcome your organization wants to achieve, where the gaps are, and then what external capabilities and support you may need. You can then select delivery partners and clarify the outcomes and goals that you want to be achieved by mapping the potential experts and stakeholders. And finally, you may allocate, again, ownership of the partnership to the most relevant business and functional team so that it is owned and, again, actively managed by them. Well, this is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for your interesting presentation. Maybe a question right away. In what sense businesses that pursue a sustainable purpose are advancing away from business as usual?
Give me 1 second. I have lost my presentation. This is always a problem with. Give me 1 second, excuse me. Could you please repeat the question, because I'm lost a little bit between my slides. Could you please?
Sure. In what sense businesses that pursue a sustainable purpose are advancing away from business as usual?
Well, that's a very good question. A sustainable business is fundamentally different from a conventional business. The reason is that the way they create value is different. A conventional business is mainly focused on creating financial value and satisfying the shareholders, while sustainable business not only satisfy the financial value, do financial creation, but know that the value is linked also to other more qualitative criteria like employee satisfaction, like, as I said, collaboration and interaction with stakeholders, and so on. So the nature of the value created by a sustainable organization is different. Another point is that a sustainable organization or business is focused on an extended value chain, while conventional business is focused on only its own internal value chain. By extended value chain, I mean, again, working with suppliers so that the products are sustainable, or working with clients before maybe some new services and products, to know that if demand is existing, what is the impact of their service and product, and so on. And I would say also, probably one of the other fundamental difference is the culture of the organization. A sustainable organization, as I showed on my presentation, is decentralized, is agile. Leaders give the ownership to their team, to the individuals. There is trust and collaboration. Why? I would say more conventional business are still working on the hierarchical process, of control and checking and so on. So I would say these three main areas: the value chain, the culture, and which was the first one? The value creation, exactly. The value creation, these are the main differences.
Perfect, Alexander. Thank you very much. Next is Edita Adamtsikova, presenting case study on Viridor ESG journey. Edita is the head of ESG at Viridor, one of the largest UK-based management companies, with focus on driving the waste sector towards net zero through a systematic culture change and targeted alignment between policy, investment, and infrastructure. Edita, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Antonia, and good morning, everybody. I'm really pleased to be here today, and I will follow Alexander's presentation with a bit of a case study to present to you what we have done at Viridor and what was and is still actually our journey, what might have been our challenges, and what we kind of learned during the process of embedding ESG into our business. We can go to our second slide, please. I'm just going to show you what we will go through today. So I will give you a little bit of an introduction and in terms of who we are as a business, what we focus on, what is the environment we operate in, and where we are basically at the moment. And then I will take you through 4 kind of key areas which we identified as critical when embedding ESG into the organizational DNA, really into the identity, which is all about governance and your team, how that happens, who are the change makers, and how to make sure you choose the right change makers who will get you to your destination. Setting the terms, so knowing your business and subsequently determining your approach. So understanding where you should focus, where are the key either quick wins or the biggest wins you can achieve through a transition, through a transformation towards sustainability, and then how to choose the right approach. Gaining a buy-in, we heard a lot about that from Alexandra already. Know your stakeholders and find the right language to communicate. This was a particularly important one for us because it wasn't just about internal stakeholders, it was also about external stakeholders. I'm going to give you a few examples why that was important, and then the actual delivery on your story. So what are the key elements of the successful delivery? As I said, we are still on a journey. And I truly believe that any ESG, sustainability, CSR, whichever you want to call it, the value creation is always a journey. It's not that you have a beginning or an end. You continuously improve and find areas where you can get better, and you can get more in depth in terms of what you do, how you do it, and what value that generates. So that's what I'm going to go through. If there are any questions, yeah, feel free to type in the chat, or Antonia, feel free to ask during the presentation, whichever way works best. So a bit of an introduction. So who we are, what is Viridor? So Viridor is a waste management company. We started as a small company in a south of England, approximately 1950s, and since then grow through various different acquisitions and divestment as well to a current state. We focus mainly on energy from waste process, which is incinerating, burning non-recyclable waste to generate energy. I'm sure most of you on this call, the first question in your mind would be, you must have a massive carbon footprint. And yes, we do. So that was one of the key things for us in ESG, and I will take you through the materiality process. So energy from waste is one of the key functions. We are the market leader in UK. You can see the graph on the slide. We have 22% of the overall UK share. We have 11 facilities. The largest facility is also the largest in the UK. It's in Manchester, or near Manchester, in Runcorn, and burns circa 1 million tons of waste per year. When you are in those facilities and just see how the waste continuously come in 24/7, never stops, it's quite fascinating, to be honest with you. And the second area we focus on is plastic reprocessing, polymers reprocessing. So we recycle plastic, we reprocess it, and then we sell it to basically a bottle factory, which creates a new product to ensure that we are keeping the material in the economy. The company went through quite a bit of a change 24 months ago. We used to be owned by a public listed company, PLC, and we've been acquired by private equity in summer 2020 for 4.2 billion. That gives you a bit of an idea of the size of the business, which created a total culture change, PLC to private equity. I'm sure you can imagine what that means. However, it was an amazing opportunity for us. It was an amazing opportunity to refocus our ESG agenda. We had a great investor on board because partially KKR invested through their sustainable fund called Global Impact, 20% of the overall 80% ownership, which gives us a massive push on start getting things right, start owning the problem, and start being like, okay, as I said, we have a massive carbon footprint. We need something about that. And that felt really, really nice for definitely for our team, that things will start moving forward. In terms of just few facts, we process 3 million tons of waste per year. That's a lot of waste. We generate circa 2,500 gigawatt hours of power per year. Just for you to imagine, that's approximately 600,000 British homes per year, which we can power. So that's Veredor. I hope that gives a little bit of an overview. And now if we go to the actual ESG delivery. As I said, after the acquisition in summer 2020, we had a great opportunity to start thinking how we actually going to get to a point where we are no longer a business with a sustainability as a bolt-on, with a sustainability as a stand-alone function to write a report and, present a few nice pictures and say some nice stories, but how we actually going to get to a point where we live and breathe ESG, where everybody is on board. When Alexander was talking about the ownership, the kind of everyone knowing their role within that process, that's exactly where we wanted to get, and that's exactly what we are working on at the moment. But first thing first, we were in summer 2020, business was getting restructured, financial review, all those fun elements, and we knew that if we want to succeed, we need a right team. We need a right team of people who are change makers, who are resilient, who have diverse set of skills, which is hugely important, who are purpose-driven, and who will stick together through quite a challenging times to make something purposeful happen. So as I said, change-orientated, people who are able to work in an accelerating pace and able to keep their eyes on the target. The diverse skill set, I can't reinforce this more. We needed strategic people. We needed people who see the bigger picture. We need visionaries. We needed somebody who will see where we're going to be in 10, 15, 20 years and set the path. That's our boss. We have brilliant director on board who leads our team and knows where we're going and set the journey. We needed data analysts. We needed to know, okay, we're going to want to get there. What needs to change? What needs to, where is the problem? What's going to happen? What we need to do? And you need to understand your business. You need to have your data right. If you don't have your data right, you are lost pretty much, because you don't know where to focus. Your information's wrong. You can't monitor your success. You don't know. You are blind, basically. So very analytical people. You can go in detail, can focus on spreadsheets 8 hours a day to understand and map the journey, which is set as a vision by the leader. And then we needed market people. We needed people who will sell the story, who will go around the business, speak 15 different languages to finance team, to HR, to IT, to our operations, use the right language to communicate, make the teams related to the change which needs to happen, make them own the purpose, made them own the journey towards a sustainable business. And another thing which was very key was that our investors immediately after the acquisition established an ESG subcommittee. What is the ESG subcommittee? It's a committee created by a board, a Topco board, which is a board consisting of investors and executives of the particular business. So it's not just your board of directors, but it's a board which includes advisors from the investors group. The ESG subcommittee meets quarterly and also involves not non-executive directors. So basically professionals from a particular field who are external and who offer different view, but also holds the board accountable to performance. This helped us massively because we had the investor, he partially invested through a sustainable fund. We had our board, which needed to work towards the key goals which we set, and then we had the external experts holding us accountable, and this board was quite a nice drive in terms of shaping up how the ESG is going to look like, but then also understanding how we're going to report against it and how the whole governance process is going to look like to ensure that it is not just a one-off thing. We say something to the world to get attention and then it disappears, and then 6 months later we say something else, and we just do it for marketing purposes and that's it. The board kind of make sure that that's not the case, not really greenwashing or whatever we call it these days, that this is something strong, robust, and something that makes sense. So getting the team right, really important. Second slide, thank you very much. Know your business. Know your business is fundamental to understand where to focus. It's fundamental to know where to make a major difference. In our case, when we sit down with the ESG subcommittee and we were like, okay, so this is the nature of our business. We are energy from waste. We handle waste. We operate just within UK. What are the key areas we have to focus on? So firstly, immediately, you say it's the environmental aspect of ESG straight away. That's actually that's why we exist. We are a waste company, sanitary function, empty your bins, make the waste disappear, hopefully don't do any environmental damage during the process, and that's it. So we're like, yeah, okay, so E from the ESG, super important. What within the E? Straight away, immediately what jumps at you is carbon emissions. We have a huge carbon footprint, around 2 million tons of CO2 per year, and we need to do something about it. And secondly, we operate within a waste sector, which is one of the most dangerous sector out there. Loads of key people can get hurt. There's loads of options and opportunities within the operation how to get hurt, and health and safety goes through and through our DNA and has to, and that's the continuous focus. So immediately it's like, yeah, fine, carbon emissions, where we wrapped circularity into it as well, not going to go to too much detail, and health and safety. That was our primary focus. So materiality assessment gives you the understanding where your focus matter, right? Where you actually can make a difference. If we minimize, or if we get to net zero, which is our goal, which we launched last year, and we have a roadmap and everything, we're gonna eliminate 2 million tons of CO2 per year. That's a lot, and that has an impact nationally, globally. And if we're going to keep our 1,200 people safe and they are not harmed and they are well, that's another huge impact. So these were our two key focus for the strategy for the beginning. But also what is important to highlight, materiality gives you the key areas to focus on, but it's not the only areas to focus on. Materiality needs to happen regularly. Materiality assessment needs to happen regularly, because you get to a point where you have plan, projects are running, you're focusing on minimizing CO2, for example, and in the background, you can already run a second materiality assessment, which shows you subsequent issues to focus on. So it's not that you do it once, you just do it repeatedly, because your organization can change. You can go through a divestment, acquisition, merger, anything which changes your operation and changes basically your impact. So yes, data, the sustainability or ESG teams, whatever you want to call it, are usually quite interesting bunch of people, because you have salespeople who are super lively and emotional and running around, and then you have data analysts kind of more sitting behind the laptop looking into the spreadsheets, and then you have the visionaries who are planning what's going to be in 2050. And I think it's good to have a really good set of skills to manage this group, for them to gel together and kind of be on the same mission, so that once you know your business, you are able to then sell your story. Second slide, please. Or not second, next one. Is it coming? Yeah, super. Yeah, know your stakeholders. This is what Alexander was talking about a lot, and as absolutely critical. After the acquisition, the business was going through quite a hard time. Of course, it's private equity takeover, which means that there is loads of change within the business. There is loads of redundancy. There is loads of refocusing, and so on and so forth. Getting a buy-in for an ESG strategy within such an environment is quite difficult, because basically everybody is in a survival mode a little bit. But what we found is that actually it also offers an opportunity, because people seek hope, and people seek an understanding of how the business is going to look like going forward, like what's we going to focus on. And the power of purpose and the power of values is multiplied. And again, Alexander said it, having the statement, having the mission statement or the purpose statement, something what defines what you're focusing on, is really, really important, because it helps you to then sell the message, and it helps you to tell the story. And what we've done at Viridor was that very early on, the acquisition was July 2020 and November 2020, second ESG committee meeting, we came up with a purpose. We knew that it's not going to be the company purpose, but we also knew that we are an ESG team. We will have to do an ESG strategy, and we need a strip line. We need something all of us relate to. And we came up building a world where nothing goes to waste. At the moment, I'm really, really excited to say that this has been adopted as the company purpose 3 or 4 months ago. That shows the journey we've been on. It's not that easy to create a new purpose for a company. That's a lot of people, a lot of talking, and a lot of buying. And from an ESG vision to a corporate purpose, that's something I personally am quite proud of, showing that, yeah, we are getting there. Still work to do, but we are getting there. And why building a world where nothing goes to waste? Obviously, first and foremost, we are a waste company, and we want to get to a point where nothing goes to waste, and we are fully circular. Secondly, we want to capture carbon, and we don't want to store it. That's not the end goal. We want to try to find ways how we can use it and convert it to new polymers, closing the loop. But that's not just the E part. The building a world where nothing goes to waste go to the S part of the ESG as well. We don't want to waste people's lives. We want to make sure that people go home safe. We don't want to waste their talent. We want to make sure that they are the best possible they can be. We don't want to waste the opportunities we have with our communities in terms of multiplying the purpose force in terms of creating the world where nothing goes to waste. So we came up with this story, which was quite powerful and quite emotional and quite relatable. And then it was about selling it to the stakeholders and going around the company, and obviously started with the executives, because you need the buy-in and you need the backup. But the moment you get through the executives, you have to go through every single function. You have to go through every single operation. You need to have everybody on board. Because the other day we were sitting in the office and we were like, we don't actually do anything. We just connect the dots. If it's just us as the ESG team, nothing would happen. We are so related on everybody within the business to do the right thing, so that we don't just put it all together and say, yeah, it's working, or this is where we need to focus more or something. But we are not the actual people making the change. We are driving the change, but the change happens there on the ground in our operations, in our functions. So talking the right language to the right stakeholder, making the story relatable, making it emotional as well. Emotional brain is far older than the gray matter. And if you push the information all the way through to the emotional brain, make it relatable to the emotional brain, it stick there. And it really worked for us. But that was internally, but also externally. it was really important for us to get on board government. It was really important for us to get on board our investors, not only just for the purpose, but for our investment we would like to do and for where we are going and where we want to go. That means we want loads of money from them, right? We want to build a world where nothing goes to waste. That's going to be loads of money for carbon capture and carbon capture plant, circa 300 million investment. You need to get on board the people with money, and you need to really, really build that story right. So that was really an interesting part, and for me, a massive learning, because the way you talk to government and make sure that policies aligns with what you are trying to do, and you don't have a blockage on the way. And talking to an investor to make them, we actually made them to release a statement that the company will invest £1 billion into carbon capture technologies, and it was part of the Prime Minister Global Investment Summit. So that was quite interesting. So talking the right language, using the right tools, making sure that people listen, just getting their attention and making sure that listen is very critical. Say it with pictures. Yeah, that's exactly it. Nothing says it easier than with pictures. On your left-hand side is the graph showing the shift to sustainable funds, which happened between 18-19, and now it just multiplies with COVID. So, which means that the money is locked with sustainability KPIs, and if there's not a performance, there isn't the investment. So that's a good way. And on the right-hand side, you can see just a visualization of what is the carbon footprint of 1 ton of waste if you have a plastic in it and if you don't have plastic in it. Because plastic is a fossil-based material, and it's approximately 16% of the total waste, but 70% of the emissions. So that was one of the tools we used to show where our strategy should be and what we should be focusing on. And the last slide, please. Yes, and on your story. I think I said a lot about this already, but setting a bold ambition and kind of sticking to it is really key. For us, it was the building a world where nothing goes to waste. And yeah, as I said, it became a company purpose, which we are incredibly proud of. So collaboration, again, Alexander said that. I think what we really learned is to be humble, to realize that we are the change makers, but we set the journey, and it's the company, the people who deliver. So kind of without the collaboration, we would never be able to do anything. And integrate ESG in everything. Health and safety is a topic of every single meeting in Viridor. We are getting to a point where ESG is going to be as well. Thank you.
All right, Edita, thank you very much for this presentation. You made some very interesting points regarding what could drive the change. Amazing, thank you. Let's see if we have some questions. I see a question for Edita from Mr. Ali Rizvi. Your initiative operates only in UK. Have you add value for it and in the rest of the world as well?
Yes, so yeah, we operate just in the UK, that's correct. But obviously emissions are a global problem. So first and foremost, our focus on decarbonization in principle is contributing to the global goals. Secondly, it's innovation. Carbon capture in particular is a new technology. If we get to a point, we are at the moment bidding for a plant in Runcorn. If we get to the point that we install that CC plant, it's going to be the first of its kind in UK of that size, but also there's going to be a feed from our power energy plant of heat and power directly to the carbon capture process, which would be the first of its kind in the world. So as innovation sharing, technology sharing, we work with loads of global partners in developing loads of various methods, not only on carbon capture. Carbon capture is obviously big for us, but also for the polymers reprocessing. So we recently commissioned polymers reprocessing plant next to our ERF, energy recovery facility, which is first of its kind in the world as well. We integrate those processes, the energy, the electricity and heat from the energy recovery facility feeds into the polymers reprocessing. So essentially, you can say it's a way of non-recyclable waste back to the circular economy in the form of power. So that hasn't been done before, and it's the largest polymers reprocessing plant in the UK. And also, if we look at health and safety, we are part of the global partnerships in terms of various different information sharing around health and safety. We are part of ESA, which is the Environmental Services Association within UK, but also global equivalents for information sharing, lessons learned. So I don't believe that if a company operates just within a particular country, it ultimately does not have a global impact. I think that goes cross-border, especially in those topics. If knowledge sharing, innovation sharing, and the kind of a collaborative approach to moving forward is definitely cross-border. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, amazing. We have another question. What is the data source for plastic roll? Is this 16% applies to worldwide plastic share in garbage? Also a question from Ali.
Yeah. So we base the analysis on a UK data. We base the analysis on a UK average UK waste composition. So if you look into your black bag waste, which is your non-recyclable bin at home, basically. So the way it works, they would take a ton, they would put a ton on a massive area, and then literally people go through it piece by piece to identify what type of material it is. And that then there is an analysis run to assign a carbon conversion factor to that particular material. So you have an inventory of approximately, I think it's 15 different materials, metals, aluminium, paper, all the way to plastics, and the plastics are divided into different types of plastics. So you have rigid plastics or you have plastic film, and in that UK sample, approximately 8% is a rigid plastic, which would be your bottles. There are two different types. In the UK, your milk bottle or your classic see-through bottle, or plastic film, which is your film basically, and there's another 8%. So if you take the carbon conversion factor for those two categories and for all the others as well, and create a carbon equivalent of 1 ton of that waste, and then you just take plastic, you would get to a point where you see that 16% of plastic is of fossil carbon when you incinerate that waste. So I would not necessarily say it's applicable everywhere. However, I would be, it depends on the recycling strategies each country has embedded. There probably will be differences because so somewhere you have zero recycling, which means that your plastic in your waste will be higher. Somewhere you might have really good system. If you have deposit return scheme on plastic, for example, in some countries where people just go back to the shop and get the little money back when they return the plastic bottle, then probably you would have a higher recycling rate. So it will vary. However, the plastic carbon factor will be similar across the countries. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Edita. Also, from your experience in your company, Viridor, how do you build the capacity and capability of employees through this ESG committee?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And that's something what we are working on at the moment. We are going to launch the whole strategy on the 7th of July. So we are really 4 weeks away, a bit stressful. But we are already planning for the whole year, basically. And the way we started thinking about it is that we have the ESG committee, which is the executives committee. And what we did, we asked each of the members, each of the board members, basically, to nominate a person to represent them in an ESG working group. So we established an ESG working group, which is like a running, operating body for embedding the ESG and also for ESG reporting. And then what we are thinking to do is that this ESG working group will support so-called ESG champions within each function and at each facility. We have really good experience with having energy champions. We are ISO 50001 accredited, which is energy management system, and to drive the energy savings and energy efficiency at each of our facilities, we trained energy champions. And we've done it approximately 3 years ago with a really good success. So at the moment, we are thinking about transitioning to the same system for the whole ESG. So that's a plan in terms of the governance, if you may or say, but how we're going to kind of get the company, how we're going to get the ball rolling across the whole company. We are planning a series of roadshows after the external launch, which we have on in July. So we're going to go across the country. We have 13 operations, and we're going to spend 2 days at each facility talking with people, telling them the story and what we are trying to achieve, but also igniting a dialogue, what it means for them, what they think, how they think this relates to what they do, and really very, very much focus on them rather than on the business itself, but how every single individual can contribute. So there is, it's really important to have a communication plan which reinforces the messages after the roadshows. It can't die with the roadshows, right? You need to have a follow-up. You need to make sure it's really embedded, but also having something which really marks the start of the journey, or the start of the change, which for us are the roadshows. Have a good governance in place to make sure that, you know, there are regular meetings, people talk, they are trained. Alexander talked about it, like if people are not trained, if people need to be trained and be equipped with tools to change, but they also need to own the change internally. They need to relate to it. So that's the two aspects. You have the knowledge, but you also have the purpose in it. And when you combine those two, it actually gets to an action. So yeah, I think these are probably the key elements, if that helps.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Edita. We do have another question, which any of you could answer, I guess. Could you kindly explain the link between ESG criteria and SDG?
Alexander.
Well, I'm not an expert of ESG, but to my understanding, at least, again, ESG criteria or metrics, you can say metrics, are the KPI. That means they are the metrics that help to check the progress in terms of quantitative achievement, I mean, in terms of figures, toward the sustainability targets. So everything depends on how you use the terminology ESG. You can say ESG goals, you can say ESG metrics, but to my understanding, ESG and SDG are quite similar. The only main difference is that SDG is formally defined by the UN. There are 17 goals, and then if you check the SDG Compass, the website, official UN, they will define for every SDG the relevant sustainability targets. They are defined, and then you can choose. Either you choose them or you use them as a model or reference, and then you adapt to your own needs, your own company's value chain, and so on. So when you use the terminology SDG, is very formal because it has been defined by the UN, and you have targets, and you have also KPI. If I am right, you have 230 KPI. They are defined, so you can choose them. You know, some of them are also defined by global GRI. Another international institution. So all this job has been done and can help companies to just select what they need. I hope I have answered the question. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. Also, a question for Alexander. How to integrate the purpose and goals into corporate positioning and communication strategy?
Well, this is what actually we had an extraordinary example with Edita. I mean, she really exemplified that. There is no ideal way to do that. Each company has to define its own communication plan, as they did for the company of Edita, and then do roadshows for external stakeholders, to explain what they are doing, do workshop within the company, and then communicate. And to my understanding also, you shouldn't separate sustainability communication plan with other communication objectives. You should not separate also sustainability financial or ESG actually metrics with other financial reporting. All that has to be integrated in one. And well, communication, to my understanding, again, you have to share with your company how the sustainability business case is actually going to increase the value of the company. And we are talking about money. It's going to increase the financial value of your company. Then the communication director has to defend his case and communicate with quarterly meetings or even monthly meetings at leadership level, at employee level, function level, and so on.
Just to add to what Alexander said, I absolutely 100% agree with the purpose is tell. When we came up with the ESG purpose, which is the business purpose at the moment, I remember getting to a point where I was like, I'm just gonna say this: building a world where nothing goes to waste for 100 million times, again and again and again, and it almost gets you to a point where you're like, I can't say it anymore. It's just like, I can't, but you really do. And I was absolutely amazed with just repeating and relating everything to that one strapline, what change in itself it made. Everybody relate to it because you just talk about it in various different languages, exactly as Alexander said. Building a world where nothing goes to waste to finance people. Well, if we're going to do that, that's going to increase your valuation by, I don't know, X number of multiple of the EBITDA. That's what's going to happen because Sustainable Investment Fund, the interest in the company grows. You prove that you're a future-proof business means money, right? Talking to HR people, building a world where nothing goes to waste. If you are recruiting millennials, if you are recruiting the whole generation, which basically is built on making change and saving the planet, as cliche as it sounds, this is a brilliant way to present your business to get the best talent and to retain the talent, because we are becoming or I truly believe and want to believe that people are purpose driven. You see it through different HR surveys, and I had it within my team. I have never been asked when recruiting for a role, what's the salary? The first question people ask me, what change am I able to make? What impact it will have? How can I contribute to a better future? And exactly. and then we get through all these interviews, and then I was like, you're not interested in how much money we're going to pay you? And they were like, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice, if I have to, if I know that I'm doing the right thing. So HR team, that's your sales pitch. You're talking to IT, huge opportunity for digitalization, how we get all this data on board, how ESG connects all the functions of the business, how you create one big network within the business. It's a huge opportunity. IT jumps on it immediately, wants to support. So it's the tell, but 15 different languages to make it relatable. And then the second thing which crossed my mind in terms of the values, what we did, we actually invited the business to create its own values. So we invited people to various different workshops where we asked them what they want to stand for, what they feel like is the right thing, what they would be proud of, what this business represents for them. And we came up with 4 quite strong values which absolutely underpinned the building a world where nothing goes to waste. So it came together, but giving people voice and asking them, not forcing things on them, but creating things with them is a huge magic, because you do it together and immediately you cross that bridge of onboarding. So
what is important, and I go 100% I'm 100% with you. What I'm working as a sustainability leadership coach within with my client is to develop sustainability competences. And to my understanding, there are 3 main competences. One is what we call system thinking. That means to bring awareness to within the organization that the company is a system and we are all part of it. The system has its own purpose, which would be defined, of course, by the board and in collaboration with stakeholders. The system has its own purpose. And then the individual part of it, the function, department, the leadership, the employee, has to participate and be part of that, be connected to that. Another sustainability competence, these are soft skills, of course, but these are fundamentals. What Edith has said, to be purpose-driven, to be aligned with the sustainability targets. And the third competence is building networks, building your collaboration skills so that you communicate, to understand, to exchange ideas, and so on. So this goes to the same direction of what Edith said.
All right. Thank you both very much. We are approaching to the end of our session. So we can round off the webinar with a virtual handout of 3 certificates by Jorge. Jorge, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I quickly try to share my screen so that you can also see what I'm talking about. All right. Can you see a tree certificate right now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we can.
That's wonderful. Then let me start by saying a big thank you to both of you speakers on that webinar for being here, for sharing your time, your experience, and for contributing in such a lively discussion with us. That's always highly appreciated. And as a little gesture of appreciation, I have the pleasure to hand over a tree certificate for each of you. EUTEC is doing that for all of them, more than 200 webinars EUTEC is doing each year. As my profession is closely related to climate protection, I'm the chair of the Climate Action Commission at EUTEC, and I'm managing director of GoBlue Now, and both roles have a lot to do with climate and climate protection, and obviously trees are closely related to that. It's always a special pleasure to hand over a tree certificate. And in this case, I do that for Dr. Alexandre Etemat, and of course also to Edita Adamčíková, And I hope, as I do hope always, that I have been somewhat close to pronouncing your names correctly.
Very close.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I will send the tree certificate, of course, to you after the webinar. Thank you very much again. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jörg, very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander, and thank you, Edita. This was really a great session. Hope to see you again in all our future events as well, because we do organize on a weekly basis network meetings. We have webinar once per month, so you are more than welcome together with the audience as well. Yeah, and I wish you all a very nice weekend. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Lovely to meet you all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.